You ever wake up, walk out to your backyard with a cup of coffee, only to find your garden has been turned into a public park, overnight, by a woman in a hot pink tracksuit who swears she owns the neighborhood? Yeah, that happened. Let me take you back a bit. My name's Chris Moreno. I'm a 32-year-old civil engineer who thought I'd finally found peace when I bought a small home in a quiet cul-de-sac called Larkspur Glen, just outside of Raleigh. 2-bedroom, good fence, space for a garden. You know, the American dream, minus the white picket part. But what I didn't know, what no one warned me about, was that the real danger in the suburbs doesn't come with loud music or unpaid taxes. It comes in the form of power-hungry HOA presidents named Diane Brewster. Now Diane, she's 38, always wears this neon pink sweatsuit like it's a badge of office, and walks around like she's running for dictator of the month. She doesn't knock. She inspects. Her favorite word? Violation. Her second favorite? Community standards. It started small, as these things always do. I had planted a little vegetable garden in the back. Tomatoes, bell peppers, basil, nothing crazy. Just something to keep my hands busy after working on military-grade systems all day. But the day Diane saw it, her eyes lit up like she'd spotted a war crime. The very next morning, I got my first fine, $50. Apparently, I was violating the HOA's visual harmony clause, whatever the hell that means. I called the HOA office to contest it. Her assistant answered, said Diane was too busy to discuss individual cases. Next week, another fine, this time for unauthorized agricultural activity. Then one for landscape disruption, $75. And get this, they started sending me photocopied rules so blurry you couldn't even read them. Might as well have mailed me a napkin with "Just Trust Us" written on it. But Diane wasn't done. Oh no. Soon, every Saturday morning she'd organize little HOA town halls right outside my house, loudly discussing what happens when residents fail to uphold property values. Flyers with pictures of pristine lawns on one side, and my garden, photographed at its worst angle, on the other. Even Mrs. Callahan across the street, who used to wave every morning, started closing her blinds when I walked by. One morning I stepped outside and saw Diane standing just outside my fence line, holding a camera, snapping pictures like she was shooting for better homes in war zones. I walked over and said, "Hey Diane, what are you doing?" She didn't even blink. "This is for my report to the city planning board," she said. I told her she was photographing private property. That's harassment. She smiled, that kind of smug, slow-motion smile you only see in villains in reality TV, and said, "Chris, if you've got nothing to hide, why are you so concerned?" But it wasn't just the pictures. Every morning, 7:30 a.m. sharp, she'd be there. Camera, clipboard, measuring tape. It became ritual. My sanctuary became surveillance. I felt like a prisoner in my own backyard. Then came the breaking point. One Sunday morning, I walked outside in my pajamas and saw the gate, an iron gate, installed directly into my back fence, with a wooden sign that read, "Future Community Garden Access." And there was Diane, digging up my basil with a little trowel like she was planting daisies at Arlington. I stared at her, speechless, and she said, "Good morning, Chris. I hope you don't mind, but I've gone ahead and started implementing the new community garden expansion. Isn't it exciting? This beautiful entrance will let everyone enjoy the space you've been, well, hogging." My jaw dropped. "You installed a gate in my fence? On my property? Without permission?" She laughed, and said, "Chris, I don't think you understand how community associations work. We have broad authority to implement corrective measures when individual decisions affect the whole." She waved a blurry document, surprise, and claimed she had signatures. I looked closer. It was garbage, unreadable. I examined the gate, solid iron, custom made, must have cost thousands. "Who paid for this?" I asked. She hesitated, just a beat, and said, "The HOA has discretionary funds for community improvement." That's when I saw what she was planting. Sunflowers, right over my peppers. "You're destroying my garden," she shrugged. "Sunflowers are more visually harmonious." I told her I was calling the cops. She smiled again. "Go ahead. Sheriff Collins is my husband's pickleball buddy. Who do you think they'll believe? A known repeat offender or a respected community leader?" That night, I didn't sleep. I planned. See, most people don't know this, but civil engineers working with municipal contracts have access to certain databases. I logged into the city's GIS system, pulled up the original property lines for Larkspur Glen, and oh, Diane screwed up. Big time. Turns out, when the development was built, the fence between our properties had been installed too far into my land, 3 feet and 2 inches to be exact. Her gate wasn't just over the line, it was completely inside my legal property. On top of that, I found the contractor invoice. She spent $4,200 of HOA money on her personal gate. Fraud, trespassing, unauthorized construction. I had her. So I made 2 calls. First to my buddy Mason, yeah, his name's actually Mason, a former military contractor who now runs a bricklaying company. Think we can put up a wall overnight? I asked. He laughed. We'll make it bulletproof. When do we start? Second call, Mr. Elroy, retired building inspector, lived down the block, only neighbor who still waved. I told him everything. He nodded slowly and said, "You should talk to my niece, Jocelyn. She's a real estate lawyer, and she hates bullies." Jocelyn listened to my story and pulled out a folder so thick it made me nervous. Diane had done this before, 4 other families. Always the same playbook. Blurry rules, fake authority, hush-hush projects. Most people just gave up and moved. "Not this time," she said. "This time, we take her down." Saturday night, midnight. Mason showed up with 2 trucks, 3 guys, and a thermos the size of a football. We got to work. We built a brick wall, 6 feet tall, 18 inches thick, reinforced concrete foundations sunk 2 feet deep. We positioned it exactly 3 feet inside my actual property line, just enough to block Diane's gate, forever. By sunrise, it was done. I brewed coffee, sat on my porch, and waited. At 7:15 a.m., Diane emerged in her pink tracksuit, humming. She walked toward the gate, stopped cold. The scream that followed? Pure cinematic gold. She called the cops. Again, Officer Nguyen showed up. Gwen showed. Young guy, polite, firm. She ranted for 5 minutes. He listened, then turned to me. "You got papers?" I showed him the GIS data, the contractor invoice, and the building permit Jocelyn had filed 2 days earlier. He nodded. "All looks good." Then, and this is my favorite part, Diane said, "I don't think you understand. I'm the HOA president. I don't need a permit." He looked her dead in the eye and said, "Ma'am, authority doesn't mean immunity. You're trespassing, and you spent public funds for personal gain. You've got 2 choices. Take down the gate, or we file charges." That night, Diane tried one last move, an emergency community meeting at the rec center. She had a whole PowerPoint lined up, pictures, charts. She painted herself as the savior of community values, and me as the villain. She even called the wall a hostile architectural obstruction. When she finished, I stepped up with Jocelyn. We pulled up the property survey, showed the HOA financial documents, and the clincher, an email thread between Diane and a private developer trying to sell off part of our shared green space behind the houses for $1.2 million. All hush-hush, all in her name, all illegal. The room erupted. Then Jocelyn stepped forward and said, "Actually, Diane, this might help you keep quiet," and handed her a thick envelope. County Fraud Division, civil lawsuit. Charges, embezzlement, abuse of power, fraud, trespassing. The board voted to remove her, 49-1. Guess who voted no? Within 2 weeks, Diane's husband filed for divorce, said he couldn't live with someone who could lie to an entire neighborhood. Diane took a plea deal. Weekend jail, 2 years probation, restitution. The gate was removed. The wall? We kept it. Painted it with murals, flowers, kids' handprints. Someone added a plaque that said, "Built with bricks, backed by truth." Neighbors who avoided me for months now waved, brought cookies, invited me to cookouts. And you know what? I never wanted to be the guy who fought the HOA. I just wanted peace. But sometimes, when someone builds a gate into your life without asking, the only right answer is to build a wall that reminds them this land isn't theirs to take. Now here's the thing I want you to think about. Was I right? Was I petty? Should I have taken the high road, or did I do exactly what needed to be done? Let me know in the comments. Because somewhere out there, someone's thinking about building a gate into your life, and you've got to decide, Do you let them in, or do you brick it up before sunrise? Let's talk.